Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. We are here now for the next video. I'm going to call this one Political Contributions and Controversy. Um, so this is I'm going to piggyback off of the other video I did on the American justice system and how um, candidate contributions can lead to a lot of controversy. When you're looking at these campaigns that all of the candidates are running on both the Democrat and Republican side, you might be wondering, like, why do they need so much money and where does the money come from? So the purpose of, this video is going to touch on that briefly, as well as go with some other things. So to answer the first question, why do these political campaigns need so much money? Well, it takes a lot of money to run commercials, millions of dollars, even just for like a 30-second commercial. And constantly, they have to put out there to the American public what their message is, because in an age where there's so much news out there on a consistent basis, it's very easy to forget and get bogged down with propaganda and stuff like that may or may not be factually true. So the purpose of all the campaigns is to put that messaging out there, let the person get seen, and let people, their voters, their constituents, kind of get a daily dose of what their political candidate stands for. So that's the purpose of them. Now, when you're looking at who donates, typically it is middle class Americans, average everyday folks. We seen that when Barack Obama ran for office back in 2008. Although he did receive big contributions from wealthy donors, most of his came from regular everyday people, donating $5, $10, $15, $20 at a time. And that really proved to be quite effective in his political campaign. When he ran for office back then, I was a junior in college, and everybody at the time was optimistic that he would win and become president, but also very skeptical as to if he would actually win, because we had never had a black president before. He was very young, relatively inexperienced at the time. He was only in the Senate for 6 years, and he did some work in Chicago Senate, but relatively inexperienced when you're running for the highest office in the land. And so nobody thought that he would actually get there because of all the hurdles that we have to overcome in terms of racial disparities, socioeconomic disparities, getting the signatures that you need to even get placed on the ballot in the first place, meeting the funding criteria at each stage that he would have to do. But we saw that he was able to overcome that. And so I wanted to say that demographics matter when you're running a political campaign. It matters the type of people that you cater to. Especially when you're doing something like running for president, you want to come off as being like an everyday citizen. So you want to make sure that the people that donate to you kind of represent that. So Obama did a really good job of doing that. As I said, he had like a lot of small donations, millions of dollars, and just small amounts of less than $100. Trump, on the other hand, he did the same thing, but he also had a lot of wealthy donors. And so that kind of, shaped the mold as to the type of president that he would be. Because you have to understand that people don't give money for free. They're not just like, hey, you're running for office, let me just give you a few dollars just because. No, they want to get something in return. And so one thing I always like to say when I'm talking about political campaigns and when I'm, teaching about political campaigns and about donations is that demographics matter. The amount of the donation does not. It does not matter. Sometimes a political candidate can do a lot better with like $125 donations than they can with $1 million donation, because it's all about consistency over time. The likelihood of somebody paying up $1 million a month to help you fund your campaign and to stay relevant in the campaign is a lot different than a bunch of people giving $25 a month. And so if you've ever signed up to support one of these candidates or show interest in one of these candidates, you may have gotten like a lot of emails in your spam regarding donations. They want donations and they always need donations, and so that's the whole purpose behind that. Um, Also, it could be a tax write-off too, depending on how much you donate. If you're under what the maximum limit is for a political campaign, you might be able to write that off or get that back. So that's an option. Um, the other thing I want to talk about in regard to this is the funding sources, and this kind of piggybacks off of the demographics of it. So typically, there's individual contributions, which would be like a grassroots campaign where you have, you know, people just donating $5, $10, $20 at a time. You also have corporations that give donations too. And most corporations out there do donate to political campaigns. So, and they do that in a form of lobbying. So they donate to the lobbyists who, that's kind of like the workaround around it. The idea being that corporations are supposed to exercise good governance, so therefore they're not supposed to be political. They're supposed to be apolitical. So, but at the same time, they do have their special interests out there. So that's kind of like where like the whole like special interest groups come from. So think healthcare, think pharmaceuticals, technology, Amazon, the Walmarts of the world, even the gig economy, believe it or not. So now a lot of times when you look at these political candidates and they have to file every few months with the SEC to disclose who donated and how much and where it came from. So if you actually looked at those filings, you would really get a good understanding of what type of forces, quote unquote, the powers that be. So what type of forces support certain types of candidates. Typically, you'll see a lot of oil and gas contributions going to the Republican candidates. Healthcare does as well, but they also, veer more towards the Democratic candidates. So when you look at those filings, you would be able to see and ascertain who does what, where, and why. When you look at things regarding the economy, when you're looking at taxes, benefits, all that kind of stuff like that, all of that stuff is kind of tied up together. At the same time, when people look up those things or when any type of controversy comes out about those things, it's not always politically correct. So when you look at that, you can kind of think about like the Koch brothers, KOCH, Koch brothers. If you was interested, look them up. You'll see what I mean. In terms of political controversy, they have a lot of that. But they also donate heavily to Republican candidates. It's not always politically correct when they do, but they do. So that would be something to take into account. The purpose of this video isn't necessarily to go into the details of who donates what, but more so to say that there's like a method to the madness. And so once you understand the method to that madness, it helps you understand why political candidates move the way that they move and why corporations donate to certain special interests who pass the money on to their political action committees to do certain things. So that's the whole purpose behind that. As they say, follow the money. You follow the money, you'll see exactly what people are doing. The last thing I want to talk about here, because this video will be relatively short, is political correctness. So when you look at various like organizations like the ACLU, the NAACP, some people might even argue all the various cancer organizations like the Corman Foundation and stuff like that, Johnson & Johnson. Those corporations have a certain obligation to maintain a atypical political stance. They're supposed to be organizations for the people. They're not supposed to be donating to any particular cause, but that's not always the case. Usually it's not an issue unless, there's some kind of controversy that comes up with the candidate or with that particular company. And then when they do investigations into it, you come to find out that, hey, this person did this, or they got like a lot of money from this, or you look at recently, Joe Biden, his son Hunter Biden with the Saudis and getting that, $1 billion and stuff like that. So all of that kind of comes into it. It's not really politically correct to receive foreign contributions for, you know, American elections. That's like kind of frowned upon. Um, it's not necessarily all the way illegal, but it's not politically correct. And so there's like this balance that exists between political correctness and legality when it comes to political contributions and the American justice system, um, and uh, political correctness and donations and stuff like that. So all of that is kind of sort of tied together. I will do future videos going more in depth into these topics as they come up, but this is another video that is kind of like laying the foundation for the basis and purpose of this channel. Um, if you like this video, please like it, share it, and subscribe it, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.